So today's is Thou Shalt Not Playhouse. Anybody remember last week's?
Save sex for later.
Save sex for later. So just a quick review on that.
I had a great time tonight.
Me too.
It's here. No. It's impossible.
Get him! Get him! What are you thinking, Bobby? The yawn move?
Alright.
Coming up on, boys. Blue team, flank the left. Up against the truck. Get out of the car. Do it. Keep your hands to yourself.
SWAT. Safe weight abstinence team. Preserving virtue through violence. You'll thank us on your wedding night.
Your mom would hire one of those, wouldn't she?
I would.
You would, yeah.
The future is a million little choices. Practice or play video games. 2 hours in the gym or 2 hours at the movies. A little extra work or a little extra play. Reconcile or let the sun go down in your anger. Get up or push the snooze button again. Take a potential client to the game, or take a kid from a broken home. Spend that bonus on yourself, or give it to a ministry that reaches out to pregnant teens. If we could get a picture of the future, if we could jump ahead 10, 15, 20 years, and see the accumulation of our decisions, the chain of events we set in motion, how differently would we live today? How would we choose to spend our time? What would we walk away from? How would we treat the people around us? What would we choose to pursue with passion? Where would we choose to invest our skills and our resources? Your future is a million little choices, and it starts today.
Every single choice we make has some kind of impact on somebody, positively, negatively, in some way, form, or fashion. So that's part of the reason why we're going through this, is so that you have choices. Ultimately, the choice is each one of you girls. It's your choice. We can advise you, we can give you advice, we can try to give you guidance, but ultimately, we know the choice is yours. We made our own choices. We look back and know how we would change things, how we would have done things differently. And as parents and as aunts and uncles and etc., we try to guide you, but we also realize that ultimately, in the end, the final decision is yours. And today's is talking about living together. And there's a lot of logic given to us about why people should live together. The test drive. It helps us make an informed decision. Does it really, though? The reasons people want or say that they're going to live together include love. It's all about love. We love each other. Finances. It's about saving money and budgets. Practice. Practice makes perfect, right? Engagement. It's about getting prepared for marriage. So it's the test drive. And that's the reasons that people give. Some of the reasons. There's other reasons, but that's the reasons that people give about living together. And I've heard all these plus a few more. And you probably have heard a few more, or might even think about it yourself and maybe have a different reason than this. It's kind of like going to the car dealership and not buying a car without test driving it. That's the logic behind this. But when we look at it, there's often other reasons that people really choose to live together. And they include fear, sex. Some live together for sex, some for manipulation, and some people out of immaturity. And I'm not going to say that any one person as a real reason. There's other real reasons that encompasses all these. But these are roadblocks on your spiritual journey, on getting closer to God, if that's what you desire to do. When we talk about the first one, fear, sometimes it's the fear of divorce. I don't ever want to get divorced, so I'll just live together. Because marriage is risky. I'm not going to make my parents' mistake, because look how it screwed me up. And that's some of the reasons out of fear that people do it. They live together. And you end up with a cake like this. And people sometimes feel like the cake says here, divorced at last. Do you know what's worse than being by yourself? Is being married to someone and wishing you were by yourself. That is worse than not being married or not being with someone. Being tied to someone that you are so incompatible and things are so wrong that you wish you were by yourself. Another reason is sex. Free sex. Convenient sex. Often men move in for easy sex. And I'm not going to say that's always the reason, but often. They'll even get engaged. Some of them will marry, some of them almost marry. And then they leave. Marriage is not a test drive.
I actually decided to get married out of guilt. We did the whole wedding vows, like Christ loves the church, and submit to your husbands, not even taking it seriously, just thought it sounded cool. It was scripture, let's say that at our wedding. All that premarital sex caused insecurity issues.
Kaylin was a very flirtatious kind of person, so I think I was always intimidated by that, and I would always act out. Sometimes Kaylin doesn't validate me because he puts other priorities first. I feel like he doesn't think about my feelings or take the time out to communicate to me of where I'm coming from.
My wife is definitely into the dating thing a whole lot more than I am. I'm much more comfortable just hanging out and being married.
After we got married, the romance was done, the dating was done, but I definitely still want to, yeah, that's what you did to get me, but let's keep doing that to keep me innocent.
I feel like I argue with my wife over and over and over again about the exact same things. We're always arguing about how loud I am at the end of the night. She's ready to go to bed. She wants me to come to bed at the exact same time. My parents didn't even do that, and it's real hard for me to accept for my wife to do that to me.
When we argue, for instance, when Kaylin does want to play his video games and I am going to bed, he's not going to bed with me. Two, he's probably going to end up playing for a long time, sleeping out on the couch, and that happens 2-3 times a week. I was so mad that all he wanted to do was play video games that I broke his Xbox. And in retaliation, he would throw and break my phone. And
I definitely sacrificed to be married a lot of my wants, a lot of my time.
What keeps me from being truly happy in my marriage is just having set in my mind, this is how it should be. And when it goes wrong, I'm completely insecure, unstable, unhappy. But I think being a woman, you want this fairy tale marriage, you want it to be perfect, and when it doesn't go perfect, you just feel like you're not being validated.
did she look in the video when y'all were looking at her? Did you see the redness and the fluster on her? And what did he say was his reason for getting married?
Guilt.
Guilt. You don't want somebody to marry you out of guilt. That's no fun. So the next reason besides sex was manipulation. If sex is the main reason guys move in, sometimes women will trade sex for the hope that someday they'll get married. They're auditioning for the role of the wife. They use sex to manipulate the man to marry. Sometimes girls will use pregnancy to get a guy to marry them. Often, the woman becomes the test drive dummy when the plot fails. We had a little girl that told her boyfriend at school a couple of years ago that she was pregnant, so he married her while she wasn't pregnant. But to keep him, she managed to get pregnant. And so they've started their relationship off on a really not good foundation. And marriage is hard enough when you started off on the right foot, but when you started off lying to each other, or even if just one of you's lying to the other one, that's not a good foundation for marriage. You want to be married to somebody that lies to you? No. Did you get that turned off? Okay, thanks. All right. Then the next reason sometimes people get married or live together is immaturity. It's an immature decision to live together before marriage. Building a relationship takes time, energy, and sacrifice. People who are living together are saying, I want it now. Of course, what does our society say? Get it your way, get it now. You want cash now. That's a commercial that comes to my mind. Or Burger King many years ago started, you can have your hamburger your way. Get it your way. That was their big thing. And so we tell everybody in our media that you can have what you want now. If you're in the middle of a lawsuit, we'll give you cash now up front while you're waiting for your settlement. Everything is you can get it now. And so that's how we look at life. Often, when this happens and they're living together, they're walking on eggshells to make each other feel good. Like that couple that we just looked at, they had lived together, so they had kind of walked on eggshells, but once they were married, he relaxed big time, didn't he? He got married out of guilt, and she's like, wait a minute, this is what you did to get me, why aren't you doing that now? You can't walk on eggshells forever. You have to be who you are, and if you take time to get to know that person, then you know whether this is somebody you can live with. Because after marriage, reality hits. And sometimes they're in their immaturity, they're just avoiding commitment, and they end up looking like this poor fella. He looks pretty pathetic, doesn't he? So, does living together work? No. Statistically, and I checked these facts and these statistics, and there's even more statistics I could add to go with this. Fact 1, people who live together have an 80% greater chance of getting divorced. Fact 2, women who take the test drive are 2 times more likely to be the victim of domestic violence than married women. Fact 3, in a survey of couples who live together, 71% of the women said they would not live together before marriage again. And there's a whole bunch more facts that I could have included in this that supports this, because I didn't just go off what these guys said in this book. I did some research to see if they were fairly current in their statistics, and they are. So when you're looking at living together, it sends a double message. In Dr. Hillerstorm's book, Intimate Deception, he states that trying to experience marriage without a lifetime commitment is like going to a donut shop to buy your meals. If you go to a donut shop to buy your meals, you're going to get full, but eventually you're going to die of malnutrition. probably diabetes and a few other things. The man is sending the message, I love you and I want to get to know you better. But at the same time, he's also sending the message, I don't want to get too close. In case things get too rough, I can leave. I can just get out of here. In the end, she feels she has nothing, no security, no real commitment. If they do get married, they already have cracks in their relationship foundation. So it's kind of like this doormat here. Welcome, goodbye. Kind of leaving it as a two-way street. I can just leave at any time without having any solid foundation and commitment. So are there practical alternatives to living together? Live separately. Do the right thing. If you really want to check your compatibility, then get some pre-engagement counseling. Take a good couples inventory, which has been an accurate predictor. And here's a site you can go to if you're dating somebody and you want to see, take the inventory just to see how compatible you are. And these guys said this is a really good indicator. And they deal with this type of stuff all the time. Then you can have some idea. And when you take these inventories, be honest. Don't say what you think you should say to get the answer you want to get. Consequences of breaking this commandment. There's a greater chance of divorce. Sex without commitment. Whoa. I don't know what this just did. Here. Greater chance of being a victim of domestic violence. More likely to experience depression. And then there's benefits of keeping this commandment.
Curtain.
You are practicing self-control, which is a critical character quality for a lasting relationship. You're building a healthy foundation of trust and respect. You can sleep at night without worried about an unexpected pregnancy or sexually transmitted disease. You will feel more secure in your dating relationships because you can build solid commitments. So good rapport plus trust equals a solid relationship. If you've broken this commandment, is there help for you? Well, yeah. Move out now. Confess what you did was wrong and stupid. Receive God's forgiveness. When we did the one on the woman at the well, do y'all remember what Jesus said to the woman? He said, "Where's your husband?" And what'd she answer back?
I don't have one.
I don't have one. Jesus said, you're speaking the truth. You've had 4. The one you're with now is not your husband. And then he forgave her. And he said, go and sin no more. So Christ is ready and willing to forgive. The woman who was taken out into the marketplace because she was in adultery, the Pharisees brought her before Jesus and wanted Jesus to stone her. And do you remember what he said?
Any without sin. Yeah.
Cast the first stone.
Yeah.
He without sin cast the first stone. Well, we've all sinned. Nobody cast a stone at her. And after a little bit, everybody had kind of left. He looked up at the woman and he said, where's your accusers? She said, I don't have any. He said, neither do I condemn thee. Again, he forgave her and he said, go and sin no more. So you can receive God's forgiveness and make a decision not to repeat the same mistake. If you think this relationship is worth continuing, get some pre-engagement counseling. And it will end in forgiveness.
Yeah,
So I grew up in a home where my dad wasn't really attentive. He seemed to be more interested in my sister, who was into sports. And so I just kind of got left by the wayside. I viewed God as I viewed my father. with his back turned to me, busy with somebody else, not concerned about me. And so when I would reach out to him, I just felt like my prayers were hitting the ceiling and I wasn't making any headway. I felt like God just didn't care. I fell for the first guy that came around. I ended up getting pregnant at 15, and through a series of bad relationships, I just fell for the wrong type of guy, and now I'm a single mother of 5 children. I ended up being lonely a lot of the times, even when surrounded by the children, and saw places where I was getting angry, and most of my anger was at the kids, and was throwing things at them and yelling at them. And I had heard about Celebrate Recovery. That's when I decided maybe I needed to come check out what was wrong with my anger. Grace was hard for me because I didn't really understand it. Felt like God was mad at me and he didn't want to have anything to do with me because of my guilt and my sin, and that I was unreachable. When I accepted God's grace, it was when my sponsor sat down with me and looked over the lesson of grace with me. I just felt through her and her acceptance, God's grace. God's grace changed my view in a lot of different ways. It changed my view of my children, and I was able to extend more grace to them. I realize now that God does not base his love for me on my circumstances and the things that I have done in my life. I definitely feel more valuable and precious to the Lord and am actually worth something. Like I can make a difference now with my life and the things that I've been through.
So how many times did she try this?
5.
And how successful was that?
Not successful.
No. Kelsey, your mouth fell open when you realized she had 5 kids.
I don't know if you heard her, but she said, 5? My goodness, wasn't 1 enough?
But when you get caught in this cycle, Kelsey, that is a good question. Is not 1 enough? But when you get caught in this cycle, it's like you're always searching and seeking to find that person that's going to make things right and help. I think. No, I don't want the phone. It's like you're always searching and seeking to find that person that's going to make things right for you. And she wasn't able to do that, was she? I lost y'all when Bill walked in. That's fun. Any comments on the lesson today? No? Any observations?
Any opinions?
It was a good lesson.
It was a good lesson? Anybody think it was a bunch of bull crap?
No. Destiny, do you have anything to say?
Are you picking on Destiny?
No, she just kind of had that look over there.
What look
like,
is that? That look you get sometimes?
It's just my face.
That one. The look like I don't want to be.
Well, everybody in here has been the victim, except for Carly, of divorce. And everybody in here, like at the beginning it said, you're affected by a million different choices. Well, unfortunately, you're affected by a million different choices that your parents made. You're affected by a million different choices that family members and other people in the community make. You're affected by a million different choices that you make yourself. So there's a lot of things that go into the hurt. Now let me ask you this. Who is forgiveness for? Exactly. Forgiveness is for yourself. If somebody has hurt you and you forgive them, it might make them feel good to know that you've forgiven them. But forgiveness is truly for you. Because when you're angry at somebody, ultimately you're the one that's tearing apart.